And I think one of the interesting things that's come up from everyone this morning is the need for more fisheries science. We're facing difficult times. Government is inevitably going to have to cut back, and it's very hard to see where the funds are going to come from. But everybody agrees we need more data, and all of the future decisions are going to have to be based on hard science, are going to have to be based on data. And we have real concerns about where that's coming from. One of the things that Seafish is trying to do is to increase the ways that fishermen can get some of their knowledge into the system, so that some of the work that's already out there, some of the data that fishermen know about, some of their knowledge can be included in the system, as well as the scientific data that comes in from organisations like CFAS.
In terms of trying to achieve MSY in all commercial species by 2015, the industry is quite solid in the fact that it doesn't believe it is achievable. And even if we try to attain 2015 for all stocks, chances are at that time at least 8 would be in need of severe recovery. That's as a result of the trophic interaction of stocks. It's almost impossible. I think what we should be trying to achieve is a sensible sort of staged process towards sustainable development and sustainable fishing. I think that's more important than anything, because we have to understand that in terms of sustainable development, that incorporates an economic element. And if we try and ruin business on the way to try and achieve MSY by 2015, then we will actually have broken the system, and I don't think that's actually in the interests of anyone. So as an industry, we are fully behind sustainable development. We're fully behind moving towards more selective fisheries, trying to reach a specific point in terms of MSY for all commercial species. We think it's almost impossible to achieve.
In terms of the idea that we can use underutilised species to solve the problems with fisheries, I think that's just a bit wishful thinking. What we clearly need to do is not waste fish. That's a very, very obvious thing, and we need to be a bit more diverse about what we will be prepared to eat. But the idea that there are somehow vast amounts of untapped riches out there that we can just plunder is a little bit naive, particularly because we don't have stock assessments for any of these things. So ideas that we can just exploit squid or krill and somehow that will work is just a little bit hopeful, and I don't think it's going to feed the world.
Well, I think the thing is with the certification scheme that it provides third-party assurance that that fishery is being managed sustainably. With the Marine Stewardship Council, that's an independent assessment. It takes about 12 to 18 months for the fishery to get certified, and the assessment looks at a number of things such as the stock assessment of the target species, the ecosystem impact, wider ecosystem impact of the fishery, and also the management plan for the fishery as well. So if the fishery can prove that it meets the MSC standard for all of those 3 principles, then it can have the MSC Eco label, which basically just proves to the market that it's a sustainable and well-managed fishery.
I think the idea of asking fishermen to do something without giving them anything back is a fairly challenged one at the best of times, and we asked farmers to do the right thing, and we gave them money. It was called environmentally sensitive areas. We're now asking fishermen to do 2 things. One is conserve fish stocks, and the other is create areas in which there will be limited fishing, marine protected areas, and we're not proposing to compensate them for that in any way. That seems to me to be completely mad. And it seems to be completely mad that we are at the same time subsidising them to, well, particularly in other countries which are particularly good at getting subsidy, for gearing up their fleets, building bigger boats and bigger engines, and paying for their fuel. This is mad. We should be switching the subsidies to the things that the fishermen need to do to compensate them for doing it. And I am wholly in favour of that.
We believe that sustainability accreditation has a role to play within the fishing industry in Scotland. We believe that not only does it maintain our market share in terms of the global fish market, but also that it proves our sustainability credentials and increases the level of science within the industry. We're currently increasing the level of information that we're collecting from the vessels through discard data that's being collected from every vessel that is on the haddock, the SFSAG haddock accredited list. By doing this, we hope that there'll be an increased level of information regarding the discards of pressure stocks within the North Sea that will assist in the sustainability of both the haddock fishery and the associated stocks.
In relation to transferable fishing quotas or transferable fishing concessions within the Common Fisheries Policy, we see this as yet another very significant threat to the long-term sustainability of the inshore fleet. It only goes towards cementing the property rights that should be based on a public resource, and global examples suggest that the implementation of this sort of rights-based management effectively destroys small-scale vessels and coastal communities in quite short order.
It funded through the reform of the fishery subsidies. European fisheries are some of the most heavily subsidised industries in Europe, and that funding could be diverted into moving away from propping up unprofitable fisheries and moving into scientific assessments of stocks.
Inshore fisheries rely on good scientific information. At the moment, as you pointed out, there's an absence of information for many fish stocks. We see closer working with the industry as a good way of producing information in a cost-effective way, looking at their catch data, many of their historic records. We can use those as proxies for fisheries management. And also looking at other organisations we can work with as partners with the new inshore fisheries and conservation authorities. So this is only an inshore perspective, but we see those mechanisms as providing us with more detailed information, scientific information to support our management of the stocks in those areas.
We can spread aquaculture to wider areas of the sea, so we make the cages more robust. That we develop onshore recirculation technology and make that cost effective so that the fish are totally protected from any impacts either on them or from them onto the environment. There are so many areas that this incredibly new form of food production really only developed properly in the last 30 years, that industry can become the main dominant supply of seafood for human consumption. Because after all, fish is the most healthy food that you can eat. And as long as we can maintain a sustainable aquaculture production, we can maintain the amounts of seafood that's needed for the growing world population.